Growing up in Umstead, that was a neat time. It was sort of like a Leave It to Beaver type atmosphere. And my parents had 10 acres, and it was sort of like a family farm. We raised our own meat, we raised our own vegetables. My mom was a beautiful seamstress, and she made all our own clothes. So I never felt like, we were needy, because we always had plenty, that was provided for us. But looking back on it, I think that they always were very, very aware of not having a whole lot of money and making things stretch. My doll was actually a real live bunny, and my parents allowed me to take it in the house, and it was a chocolate brown bunny that had just the softest fur, and I would dress it up in doll clothes, and I had a little red wagon, and I would pull it around. We raised the turkeys and the chickens and the pigs and milked the cow and everything to have food on the table. And so I don't know that I was aware of when we ate that bunny, but it became a stew bunny at some point. And all three girls slept in the one bedroom, and the boys had the other bedroom upstairs. And so she would tell me that between our beds, there were snakes down there, and that if I touched the ground, they would get me. And so I would push the beds together, so that I didn't have to have that space down there where the snakes were. And then she would come up and she would move the beds apart. My dad was gone a lot because he was a salesman, and his territory was still up in Cleveland, and so he'd be gone overnight during the week and then just come home on the weekends. I was having difficulty, I think, probably because I was reserved, making friends in high school and things. And so because I was a really good student, I think the guys were sort of afraid of me. So I never went to the proms, I didn't go to the dances, And so I was sort of lonely. I would come home from school, and I'd go up to my room, and I'd shut the door, and I would just want to be by myself. And I think that was really hard on my mom, because she was lonely, I think. And I wasn't very understanding. Looking back now, I regret it. My dad, for a birthday present, took me up in a small, I think it's probably a 4-seater plane, out of Burke Lakefront Airport, and we flew around Lake Erie and back, and I got the flying bug, and I thought, okay, so I want to be a stewardess so I can fly, but in order to fly overseas, which is what I wanted to do, I wanted to travel and see the world, at that time you had to be a nurse. And so that's really why I wanted to be a nurse. Probably 1/3 of the population of our class went on to college, and the other 2/3 got married, and they were taken out of the dating field. And so it was, I think between my sophomore and junior year, Brian called and asked for a date. I think one of the things I really liked about Brian was I didn't have that fun-loving spirit and everything, and Brian did. And so I think that's one of the things that attracted me to him. He just had a love of life and enjoyed life and got me out of my shell. It was long distance. Calls were expensive, so we hardly ever called. We wrote letters. They took, a week or so to get there. Actually, I had gone down to Ohio State to visit, and he proposed to me in the student union. And I said, ask me that again, because I really want to remember that. His mom was so upset that she would not speak to me or him for 2 weeks. We got off on the wrong foot, I think, for that reason, and I warmed up to her eventually. The wedding was sort of a disaster. When Brian went to order the tuxes, I asked him to get a green shirt to match the green dresses. Well, my brother Dick, unknown to me, said something about, well, Ruth is spoiled and she always likes her way, so do whatever you want. And so when we got to the wedding and he came out, Brian had on a blue shirt, and all the guys had blue shirts. They clashed with the bridesmaids' dresses and everything else that had to do with the wedding. Well, what can you do at that point? But to this day, it still rankles me. I don't know whether Brian was excited or just wanted to kiss me twice, but he kissed me in the wrong place in the wedding and then got to kiss me at the right place too. So that was cute. We didn't have any money, so we were very, very frugal. We only had each other, so we had to rely on each other. We didn't have any interference from family, so we established our own household and how we would do things. My dad had died when we were overseas when I was 24. I never really got to know my dad as an adult. Brian's dad just filled that vacancy, and he was a dear man. We got along really, really great. We had Laura, and Laura was 2, and we decided that we really wanted to bring her up in the church. But I don't really think at that point I had much of a personal relationship with God. It was just, the fact that I was brought up in a church home, and that's what you did. So it wasn't until, I think probably when our son died, Sean, that I really relied on God for a personal relationship. I didn't really know or wasn't aware that he was having problems. And I don't know what might have happened there, but looking back, he was depressed and he took his life. That was tough. I think that's when God became really real to me, because without God's grace in getting through that, I don't think I would have survived that. After he died, I don't think it was the first night, but I think it was the second night, that I couldn't sleep, and so I got up and I just laid on the floor in the den and just really, really talked to him for probably the first time in my life. Because I knew that I just could not get through that by myself. And that might seem odd, that I would be a better person because Sean died. But I think it's true. I think that God doesn't cause things to happen, but he does give you the grace and the strength and the comfort to get through it. And then on the other side, he uses you for his purposes. I'm rather a person who likes to be in control, and I like to have my own way. But he needed to show me that he was in control. It just gave me much more understanding of suicide, and made me less judgmental. That there is hope because of Jesus, and that there is life, and we'll be in a better place. One of the things that parents tell other parents when they're new parents is enjoy your kids while they're young, because they grow up so fast, and they do. And that's one of the things, it's said over and over again, but I think people don't really take it to heart, because the next thing you look, your kids are out of the house and you've missed a lot. So that would be one of the things I would impress upon them. I'm Ruth McClelland, and I'm leaving a legacy.